Everybody want to argue until they get emotional. So, figure we're going to make a video about this one. So, stay tuned. We're going to talk about it. What's going on, folks? It's your boy, Javier Javier with the Javier Javier Show. Make sure you say it twice. Man, I'm finna get into it. We're going to talk about people and their emotions. We're going to talk about how people allow their emotions to out-argue themselves and how people allow emotional people to out-argue them. So, I thought about this and I was like, I got to make a video about people getting emotional during arguments and people allowing personal things they went through to shape how they make their arguments. So, let's get into it. Yeah, let's get into it. So, for instance, I'm going to start this off and say, don't let your emotions out-argue you. So, when I say that, don't allow your emotions to trump what it is that is logical, reasonable, and sound. If you have an argument that is logical, reasonable, and sound, then there's no need for emotions. There's no need to get personal with your arguments. There's no need to allow your personal experience or things you've been through to affect how you make your argument, because arguments are not meant to be made from an emotional, place. Arguments are meant to be made from something that is sound, something that is either statistical, something that is repeatable, something that is tangible, something that you can put your hands on and actually see the numbers or see the data, or you can follow it logically without any biases. So then you have to ask yourself, are we able to do that without biases? And in a sense, no, not honestly. I don't really think anybody's able to be unbiased in everything. Maybe in some things, but who knows? But this is not a video about being biased. This is a video about letting your emotions out-argue you. And the reason that you don't want to let your emotions out-argue you when you're actually making these conversations or having these debates is because of the simple fact, the person who's not emotional will always be able to see where it is that you're vulnerable. And they can pick out the flaws in your logic because your logic is not fully backed up by something that can be followed step by step to lead to a certain conclusion or outcome. It's basically you were affected by something emotionally, so it shaped how you saw something. That's not based on anything that's, credible, for instance. Yes, it happened. Yes, your experience matters, but that doesn't translate over to the broader spectrum of things that we care about. It doesn't translate over to the reality of majority of the people who may be arguing your point or arguing against your point. So when you get emotional and you allow your personal devotion to get inside of what it is that you're arguing, you have to stand outside of it and make that argument. Because then people are just going to look at you and say, you know what? This person, they're too emotionally invested. They can't have this conversation. They're not unbiased enough to make it a sound argument. And therefore, you let your emotions out-argue you. And I'm just going to say this. It's not good for an emotional person to be making decisions. It's not good for an emotional person to be out deciding things for multiple people. That's why we don't want our president or we don't want our leaders to be emotional. Even though they can be emotional, you don't want to feel like your leaders are making decisions purely based off of their emotions. Now, I know some of y'all might say, well, Trump does that or Obama did that. This is not about politics at this moment. I'm talking about the art of arguing. And I'm focusing specifically on emotions. So, I said earlier, if you go back, I said the other part was not allowing somebody who's emotional to out-argue you. The reason that I bring that up is, it's simple. When a person gets emotional during a discussion or a debate or an argument, a lot of people tend to shut down. A lot of people tend to be like, well, I'm not trying to overlook your experience. I'm not trying to make you feel bad. A lot of people shy away from arguments that get emotional. You should never allow that. Because people who get emotional during an argument, that's a flaw. And if they want to navigate throughout the world, that's a flaw that they need to fix. In order to fix that, they have to face opposition that's not willing to back down because they're getting upset or that they're getting, sad or whatever the case may be is. If you're not an adult or if you're not grown enough to have these discussions, don't have them in the first place. If you can't handle where the conversation may lead, if you can't handle the type of things that the discussion may call for to be talked about. I see a lot of people who have these discussions with people, and one person on this side is, let's say, having a conversation, and then the other person on this side is having a conversation, but this side over here, they get emotional. They either don't like something that this person over here said, and they either lash out or they make an emotional appeal to this person. And at that moment, this person over here has to decide, do I allow this person's emotions to shut down the conversation or control how I feel or how I speak out about the conversation or have these discussions? Because there's a lot of emotional things going out there. This translates over to politics, religion, anything you're doing in your life. People who are emotional about things, they're not the best people to talk to about policy. They are not the best people to talk to about what decisions that should be made in this country that will affect millions of people, if not the world. You don't want to have emotional arguments when you're making discussions about policies, because you may be emotionally correct, but you may be effectively wrong. Everything that makes you feel good doesn't mean that it's going to work. Everything that makes you feel bad doesn't mean it's not effective. You may just not like it. So there's a lot of this going on. There's a lot of, well, I've been through this and you can't tell me my experience and I feel this way and I feel that and you can't tell me how to feel. I don't care about how you feel. Facts don't care about your feelings. I think a lot of people say that nowadays. They don't care about your feelings. So leave your feelings out of it. If you want to get emotional, if you want to start feeling stuff, you know what you can do? Exit the room. You don't belong in the big boys table or the big girls table. You don't need to be making policies. You don't need to be making decisions. I don't even think you should be raising kids, honestly, if you are not in control of your emotional state, especially when it comes to important decisions. Now, emotions are good. There is such thing called emotional intelligence, and it's a very useful tool to have. Some of us lack that tool in certain areas. Hey, but it is what it is. But what I'm saying is, if you're going to have an argument, if you're going to debate anything of any importance or substance, you got to come at it from a place without emotions. You got to come at it with facts, evidence, statistics. Come at it with a logical, sound argument that can walk somebody through your line of thinking and get them to the place that you want to get them to, instead of appealing to a person's emotions. So I hope you enjoyed the material. If you haven't joined the Hobby Lobby yet, I'm imploring you right now. You see that little button down there? Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Subscribe now if you're watching this video. If you enjoy the content, like it, share it. I got many more coming for news, religion, politics, culture. We talk about it. So you came, you heard, you saw. Now run and tell them I said it. And if they ask me by name, make sure you say it twice. This is the Javier Javier Show.